Active and reactive scenes. Why you need both. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes.
And it's been a hot minute since we did any new recording. I'm going to find my timer real quick here so that I can set it for 5 minutes because, as you all know, we're not great at
It,
tracking
it's
time ourselves.
it's 5-ish
Five
minutes,
in
but that's
ish.
too long a title, so
Yes. All right. So we got it going. So,
good.
Peg, active
Yes,
and reactive scenes.
yes.
What's the difference?
Well, some people might know them by active and passive scenes.
Mhm.
It's another term people might recognize them by. Active scenes, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's some action going on. And the more passive or reactive scenes are where we're watching the character or we're experiencing with the character the repercussions, usually of the active scenes. So they're slower paced. They give the reader a break because if the reader is just force-fed action, 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 action all through the story, you're going to wear them out. And it's hard to develop rapport with a character if the character never sits still.
And it's just exhausting. I mean, if you've ever read a book or watched a movie where it just jumps in with the action and it never stops, even though you're just the viewer, it really does get tiring. You just want that chance to take a breath. Um, but I think one of the things too that I've seen a lot in sometimes in published works, but I see this too in a lot of the manuscripts I've worked with, is this desire to blend the active and reactive scenes. And so every chapter starts with reaction from the previous scene or something that happened off page, and then tries to jump into the action. And really, all that does is it just creates a lag in the beginning of your chapters. Um, y-
And it creates a predictability where the reader
yes.
pretty soon goes, "Oh, here we go again." Um, it's better to have your chapters be diverse
Mhm.
and keep the reader guessing rather than feeding them the same formula every chapter. Keep them a
Absolutely.
little on their toes.
In an easy way for you, if you're not sure, am I creating separate scenes or am I trying to blend my chat all of it into a chapter? Look at how you're opening your chapters. If all
Yeah.
of your chapters start with 2 to 5 long paragraphs of description, it's a good chance that you're starting with reaction on every chapter.
Yes.
But you don't want to do it. So, Peg, if we want to open our chapters or our scenes with actions, what are some ideas for
Well,
that?
it's a good idea to remember that action is not always physical action. Okay. It can also be something deeply emotional or like the conflict hits right there. That's not always a physical action. It can be, it can be a train wreck. It can be the beginnings of a journey. It can be the middle of a journey. It can be anything like that. But it also can be where the realization sits in on this person. You would think, well, then that's a reactionary. Not necessarily. When you're dealing with strong emotions and you're dealing with that, that is its own form of action as well. That's going to wrap the reader in. So it can be any of those things that's going to raise the reader's heart rate a little bit, hopefully, because they're so invested in this character that they're hurting for this character, or they're rooting for this character, or they're frightened for this character. Those are action scenes. And then the reactive or the passive scenes would be the ones where, okay, we're giving the reader a pause, we're giving them time to think about what's going on. We're feeding them a little bit more of the character's background or personality by how they're reacting to things. We're bonding them to the character a little bit more in those restful scenes than we are in the active scenes.
Is for example, like if you have a character who I love trolling social media for story ideas. It's so much fun. There's a lady recently who they suffered from infertility. So all four of their children were planned. They, had to go to doctors for support, and it's been several years now, and she just found out she's pregnant. That initial discovery, even though she's just sitting there thinking, there's a lot of action in there because it's the heart rate is elevated. The oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But if the next chapter you start with her thinking about this unexpected pregnancy, that's more reaction because we saw her in the moment. This is what's happening. What's my next step? I'm planning. But then when you talk about it later and she's had a second to process it, that's the passive. It's no longer in the moment. It's no longer a surprise, but it still has to be processed. And
Yeah.
I just got the
And you
5 minute
need both.
notification.
And you need both, okay?
Yes.
Definitely, if you have too much of the reactive or passive scenes, it's boring.
Hmm.
And if you have too much of the action or highly charged scenes, it's exhausting. So you need to give the reader a nice blend of both. And they need to be paced together for your pacing. Like not all action in the beginning and all retro, I just
Reaction.
lost the word
Yeah.
reaction
Reaction.
at the end, or not all thinking in the beginning and then all action at the end. You have to pace it out.
And that's all
And
we
we're
have
over.
time for this week. But come back next week for more brilliant ideas on fiction writing and publishing. Until then, I'm Karen Beery.
And I'm Peg Thomas, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.